Persona 3 and Death go together hand in hand. You can see it in the story, the character designs, and how you even summon your persona. The game does this theme of death in a way that I just love, but before we start, what do I mean by this theme of death? Well, Persona 3's messaging of death revolves around moving on from the death of loved ones and accepting mortality. The game shows this message by making characters who acknowledge the death of their loved ones and the fact that they themselves will die become stronger through awakening their persona, which represents their growth from said acknowledgement of death. The character development of the main cast conveys this theme in a way that I think is well written. Let's start with some examples. Let's start with Junpei first, because he has one of my favorite character arcs, and he's also a good character in general. Junpei Iori at first seems like an annoying character. He seems self-centered, reckless, and perverted to the player at first, until summer comes around and Junpei meets Chidori, who he likes a lot and cares for her, even though she is part of Strega, an organization that is opposing Seas. But Junpei thinks she can change, and it feels like it does, until November, when she joins back to Strega and fights Seas. The fight gets intense, and Junpei gets shot and dies. Chidori, using her own life force to revive Junpei, can talk to him in his subconscious and talks about how she's scared of being attached to people as one day she will die and will never see them again. And since she can see the day she dies, she knows her life is short. But Junpei has a long life to live, so Chidori revives Junpei so he can live out a life she can't. This moment is a wake-up sign, not just for Junpei, but the player as well. It makes you realize your life shouldn't be wasted away, how you should make the moments of your life. I love this character arc for so many reasons. First, it's poetic, as Junpei always had a desire to be like heroes in movies, ones who are kind and selfless, and in the end, he becomes what he yearned for, a hero who cares for his allies and fights for justice instead of himself. The next character arc that I will be discussing will be two characters, Akihiko and Ken. Akihiko and Ken are connected by the same character, Shinjiro, and they are connected by different reasons. Akihiko has known Shinjiro since childhood. They share the fact that they were both orphans and early Seas members. Everything is well until October 4th, where Shinjiro accidentally lost control of his persona and killed someone. This makes Shinjiro leave Seas in guilt. Ken, on the other hand, has a more complicated connection, as the person Shinjiro killed was Ken's mom. When Ken found this out, he was ready to kill Shinjiro to avenge his mother. On October 4th, the day that Ken's mom died, Ken enacted his plan and tried to kill Shinjiro. Before Ken kills Shinjiro, a Jesus wannabe called Takaya decides to shoot Shinjiro instead. Ken then finds out that Shinjiro was gonna die, and realizing there's no point to his life anymore, as his mother is dead and Shinjiro is dying, accepts his fate and decides to let himself get shot. But then Shinjiro decides to take the shot, saving Ken. Shinji, before he dies, he tells Ken to live for his own reasons and not for others. He still has to live through, and tells Akihiko to take care of Ken. He then bleeds out and dies. This causes Akihiko and Ken to develop into stronger characters. Akihiko learns that he can't save everyone. Death is a natural force, but it's not his fault. He stops blaming these deaths on his own weakness and focuses on the future. His will to fight becomes stronger. His awakened persona, Caesar, represents how he is leading his own future and focusing on it more. Shinjiro's death affected Ken a lot as well. His Fyoji attack for his new awakened persona, called Anemi, represents this by being support-based, healing every party member and protecting them, instead of the damage-based attack that Nemesis had, showing his views on life has changed, being less based on rage and revenge, and instead on living on his own and spreading that belief to others. These character arcs in Persona 3 are well done because of how they incorporate the theme of mortality to these characters by showing their growth after these tragic events, and also the fact that these characters grow in different ways that aren't always the same. Junpei becomes more serious about his life. Akihiko becomes less guilty of the things that he couldn't control, and Ken lives for himself instead of others. This theme of how different people get over loss and how they improve from it is done so well, but they never show the troublesome process of grief until Persona 3 Fest came out. The answer, or episode I guess, shows us how you can't get over death easily, and that is okay. The answer happens after the death of the protagonist, who sacrificed themselves and the after effects of his death. One of the individuals who have been impacted the most by the protagonist's death is Yukari. This can be seen in her behavior changing, becoming more emotional, lashing out, and isolating herself more. This adds onto the theme of accepting death by showing that moving on is really hard to do, and you can see this in the fight against her.
I want him back. I want him back. I don't care about anything else. I just want him to come back. I tried so hard to be strong and to look forward and just accept it all, but I can't. I can't do it. I just can't.
Accepts the protagonist's death as she understands the burden that she took for them to live today. Everyone else decides to live the most of their life for the main protagonist. This shows the hardships of loss, with Yukari going through the stages of grief and how Seize tries to console her throughout the game. It's just all great, and it fixes a problem the base game had. The base game had a lot of the characters resolve their issues in a couple days instead of a really slow and emotional process, and it adds a sense of relatability to the characters, which is one of the most redeeming qualities of Persona.